I believe I'm gone live again. Welcome back to Listen with Vobes. And it's been a while since we put any videos up. And the plan now is to start this up again and read some more books, but on an ad hoc basis. Now, what I want to do is really to not do this on a regular thing, which is going to be awkward for people. So I do actually really want to record them behind the scenes, as it were, and then upload them so that you can listen to them when you want to listen to them, rather than when they supposedly go live. But I couldn't work out how to get using. I haven't used this system for so long, and I thought, well, I will try and work out how to do it unlisted. I didn't want to pre-record them and then upload them. I thought I could just load them live and then plonk them on, but have them unlisted, then list them so people could find them. So that may happen next time. So who knows? But at the moment, the only way I can work this out is to do it live again. So this is going to be very ad hoc. But let me just say, I've been invigorated to do this again, thanks to one of my listeners who listens to my other channel, my main channel, and listens to The Naked Englishman. And there I was just reading some extra books and things, excerpts from books. And she said, I love it. I love it when you read. And I said, well, do you know about Listen with Vobes? And she said, no. And I said, oh, well, there is this thing. And she said, oh, it's really good. You should do more of it. And I thought, well, I do read to Julia, my partner, a lot. And I thought, yeah, maybe I will. So this is kind of like a bit of a preamble to a new set of these. But as I say, I don't want to do this on a regular basis because I never know where I am at any one time. I'm incredibly busy. But I'm motivated. Now, I was just hoping to get this started because I haven't even got myself a glass of water or something to drink whilst I do this. But anyway, it's gone live. I thought I could set this live after the event. But anyway, here it is. And there are a couple of people already watching. So hello to Audrey and hello to Lord Jeffrey. So, yeah. So here we go. So I haven't quite set myself up fully properly, but I guess I'm going to do that now as we are live, and we'll see what occurs. Hopefully people can watch this after the event at some point. It's a lovely sunny day outside. I've been for a walk already. Right, so what I want to do is get Google Maps, because what worked really well before was having some maps up to explore where people go in the books that I'm reading, and then present it on the screen, which is going to be my plan, and we'll do that as we go. So I just get that loaded up, and we'll see how it goes. So the book I'm reading, it's another James John Hissey. Here it is. It's The Charm of the Road. The Charm of the Road. This is 1910, and we'll see how we get on with this. I quite liked James John Hissey. He wrote several of these books around the turn of the century, last century, not this century, and it was fascinating because so much has changed, and the access to places was so real in those days, and I really enjoyed it. He does use the word picturesque rather a lot, so you know, it's all a bit mad, isn't it? But anyway, so let's start at the beginning of this, if I can find the first page. This is as I say, 1910 this was published. The Charm of the Road, Chapter 1. For a fortnight past or more, the weather had been ideal. Soft sunshine, blue skies and balmy winds, having all the while prevailed. A May, more genial than its wont, would in another day give way to the merry month of June. After the welcome spell of sunshine and warm airs, the country was looking its loveliest and leafiest, a fact that forthwith brought an attack of wander fever strong upon me. Nor did I attempt to resist it. Why should I? Does not Hazlitt state that one of the pleasant things in this world is going on a journey? By the context, it is clear he means in England. And June is surely beyond cavil the most delightful month for wayfaring and to enjoy one of the pleasantest things in the world in the pleasantest period of the year is surely a joy worth striving for. And I think that's true. It is definitely worth striving for, and it's the new year, and hopefully people will be going about and doing some travelling and all of that, which would be lovely. So I mused to myself one still starlit evening as I mooned along my tranquil garden, indulging in a postprandial pipe. Isn't that a lovely word, postprandial? Tomorrow, I thought, will be June. The days are long, the weather fine, the barometer steady. My time is fortunately my own. To act is to live. Why should I not start forth a-touring the following morning? Nor was I troubled as to how I would travel, for was I not the lucky possessor of a reliable little motor car in which to tour, an old and trusted friend that had been many a long and successful journey with me in foul weather as fair over all sorts of conditions of roads, one that had never faltered at any hill, however steep or rough that hill might be, one that had never broken down on the way. So I felt as sure as I could be of anything in this uncertain world, of arriving without misadventure anywhere I wished to go. It need not take long to pack the car. Tomorrow I would be off. I think it's fascinating that in 1910, the early age of the motor car, and let me just say, his previous books, he used to travel by dog cart, which is a two-wheeled vehicle, a dog cart. And what I should have done, he's got photographs in this book, and what would have been good is to put a second camera up so that you could see the photographs. And I haven't got that set up, actually. But and there are pictures of him, and I'll do that in the next episode when we come to them. But now he's travelling in a motor car, and the thing that I was thinking of is you need to be a bit of a mechanic, or you needed to have been a bit of a mechanic in those days with these cars, because I understand that they would break down quite a lot. So it's interesting that he says they didn't. Then I went indoors in search of my wife to moot my suddenly conceived project to her, desirous, if possible, to secure her pleasant companionship on the journey. Can you imagine? I've just had this idea, love. We're going to go and travel round England, and would you like to come? Oh, no, dear. You go on your own, dear. I'm going to stay at home and keep warm by the fire. Oh, mind you, it's June, isn't it? Women, I am aware, are more cautious by nature than men, not so ready to rush at an idea, however good that idea may be for the moment seem. Therefore I approach the subject diplomatically. Now bear in mind, he's gone on these journeys with his wife many, many times, and she probably knows the glint in his eye. I feel a change would do you a lot of good, I suggested. The weather is so temptingly fine. What say you to us both starting forth on a motor tour? It would be delightful, she replied. Perhaps in a week's time I could manage to get away. There are so many things to arrange about the children and the house that a man of little wots of before one can leave home. Tomorrow would be quite impossible. You men are so impetuous and unreasonable. I felt that there was some truth in that rejoinder, but the weather was so propitious. You'll have to excuse my bad pronunciation on some of the words, ladies and gentlemen. As you know, regular viewers of my reading come across some words, and I look at them, I know how they're said, but for some mental blank, I cannot say them. Precipitous. I still can't say it. It doesn't matter. The attack of the wonder fever so severe that I made light of all difficulties, real or presumed. It is easy to do this, for the difficulties were obviously not mine. Quoting the old proverb, "Nothing is impossible to a willing mind." I hold these ancient sayings in great respect and never fail to make use of them to further my views. They carry with them a delightful air of authority. Besides, I remarked, the world will turn round just the same even though we go a-touring, and as for the children, they're no more likely to catch the measles or whooping cough when they are away from home than if we remain there. And then he goes on to quote, "Our apprehensions mar our days more than our sorrows do." I think that last quotation settled the discussion in my favour. Of course I know I'm a little unreasonable, I conceded, but it is such a relief to be unreasonable at times, and after all, difficulties were made to be overcome. So we chatted on. Mountains became molehills. My special pleadings prevailed. One by one, the supported impediments vanished into thin air, and it was mutually agreed that we would pack the motor car the following morning and set off on our wanderings. How delightful. Now we settled to go. Where shall we go? Queried my wife. I suppose you have some idea on the subject? But I was fain to confess I had not given that important or unimportant detail so much as a passing thought. Let us decide to come to no decision as to our route, I replied. We have all of England before us, and Wales, and Scotland too, for that matter, without any sea to cross. We have only to follow the road from our own door. Why fetter ourselves with any prearranged plan, which, after the trouble of making it, we should probably never keep? Let us be free to wander where we will, taking the fortune of the highway and the lane, just driving from time to time in whatever direction. I've lost my space. In whatever direction the country looks the most inviting, or the mood of the moment inclines. With our luncheon basket on board, we shall be happy, independent of an inn during the day, and the only thing we need trouble about is finding one for the night. And if we do not care for the first that materializes, as the car never tires, we can readily drive on until we come to another of our liking. I love the fact that a car never tires. Needless to say, it obviously needs some form of petrol in it. So that's quite amusing, I think. And maybe you disagree, of course. Thank you very much to all those people who are joining. I can see the chat there, and it's nice to acknowledge. Oh, hang on a minute. I seem to have lost it now. Hello to Outlander, to Mark Burgess, and all of those. Why they've got so many little pop-ups? Learn more. I don't want to learn more. I want you to disappear. Not you. I don't know how to do that. I've got learn more, live chat. Remember to guard your privacy. Yeah, I want that to disappear. It won't go. Dear, oh dear. Can I make this? Can I pop out the chat? Got it. There we go. Sorry about that. And hello, Rick Horden. It's lovely to see you. Thank you very much. It's been a long time. Yes, I know it has been a long time. Anyway, I'm going to plonk the chat over there somewhere. Right. So, yes, we just drive until another comes into our liking. Certainly, exclaimed the better half of we. All this makes interesting conversation, but if you really mean to start tomorrow, had we not better stop talking, and see to packing of things? Which was wise philosophy. Then I looked up my camera, sketchbook, fishing rod, maps, rugs, not forgetting the luncheon basket, so that nothing might be left behind in the hurry of departure. I did not trouble about guidebooks. Better than guidebooks are reliable maps. These are helpful and suggestive, but not dictatorial. They leave you to do your own romancing. I am told, remarks Stevenson, that there are people who do not care for maps, and I find that hard to believe. The names, the shapes of the woodlands, the courses of the roads and rivers, the prehistoric footsteps of man, still distinctly traceable up hill and down dale, the mills and the ruins, the ponds and the ferries, perhaps the standing stone or the druidic circle on the heath. Here is an inexhaustible fund of interest for any man with eyes to see and tuppence worth of imagination to understand. Truly, a good map is a desirable companion. It affords a sufficiency, but not a wearisome excess of information, and it does not talk to you. I delight in a map, said Mr. Pinchbold, eagerly opening one and spreading it upon the floor. I like to pick out all sorts of strange, lonely-looking places and imagine what they're like. Let us go somewhere. Why in the name of goodness don't we travel? So it may be remembered, remarked Mr. Fudge's companion in Collins's A Cruise Upon Wheels. Apparently that was a quote from a book there. So we don't know where they are and where they're going. This has just fallen out, is an old library sticker, I think. The Charm of the Road. Size normal, it says, which is a strange observation. George's Vintage World. Good afternoon. Oh, sorry. Georgia's, I beg your pardon. Good afternoon to you. It may seem a somewhat curious statement to make, but to my mind a guidebook robs a tour of half its pleasure. I prefer to make my own discoveries unaided. Perfect freedom is the foundation of a real holiday, to ensure which it is essential neither to go anywhere nor to see anything under compulsion. The chief charms of a journey lie in exploring, so that you may have the delight of, ever and again, coming upon the unexpected and the unfamiliar. Now, to be prepared beforehand for what you're going to see is to destroy this charm and probably to court disappointment. Besides, one takes a special kind of personal pride in what one discovers for oneself that enhances its attractions and causes oftentimes even ordinary things to appear strange and memorable. He does, this author, James John Hissey, wax lyrical a lot and spends a lot of time, as indeed those people of the late Victorians did when they wrote stuff. And it is a thick book. Let me tell you, it is over 400 pages. 409. Yes, there is a map at the back as well, which is rather jolly. Not the least of the... By the way, it is freezing cold up here. It is January as I record this. The sun is shining outside. I've been for a stroll and I am in, as you can see, wrapped up in my Harris tweed as if I am ready to go on a stroll. And I even have to take with me a hat, to imagine that I am in the car with a scarf, if I can get this on, and hold the book. And I have a scarf ready to give the impression that we are pootling along in an open car. I'm now not sure what car it is. Hopefully we will explore all of that as we go. So, not the least of the joys of motoring or driving holiday is the stimulus given to the mind by its constant surprises and the happy state of expectancy as to what hidden possibilities may lie beyond each fresh bend in the road. And I get that when I'm out walking. I haven't been walking for a long time, as you probably know, because the main channel has sort of drifted into sort of other areas. But I'm hoping that will come back once we have solved the problems of the modern day. But this is like reminding us of where we want to be in this modern day for me. So, yes, absolutely. So when I'm walking, you never quite know what's round the corner, and I love that. So the interest of the observant wayfarer need never flag. Who has not at some time or other, when driving through a strange country, experienced a subtle thrill of pleasure in coming unexpectedly upon a bit of impressive scenery, some beauty spot that seems more like an artist's dream than a reality, or it may be a ruined castle, grey with years, grim relic of the feudal days, or a moated manor house whose hoary walls are suggestive of some unrecorded romance, or a rambling, time-toned farmhouse telling of long peaceful abiding, or a quaint and ancient many-gabled hostelry abounding with traditions of the coaching age, or even simply a wayside cottage. You've got to say, the language back then is just marvellous, isn't it? Isn't it just marvellous? I love it. To mention but a few of the many good things that a pilgrim in rural England is ever coming upon. It needs only the eyes to see and a heart to understand, to rejoice in the poetry of the open road, for the poetry is there, though not in the printed verse. Again, it has to be remembered that people, apart from places, have their interest. He is but a poor traveller who cannot find entertainment, information, and food for thought amongst the country folk fortune throws in his way. Many an odd character worthy of study is frequently to be met on the road. One seldom need to be dull for the lack of company thereon, if not too exacting as to its quality. Even a tramp has oftentimes an amusing individuality, though he is no saint, and could give points to Ananias, whoever that is, Ananias, in the matter of untruthfulness. It is true. Back then it would have been. These days, could you seriously say that you would meet such wonderful people with excitement? You could do, but they're very hard, aren't they, to find these days? Everybody seems to have been blanded down, dressing in the same, whatever the current fashion is. We're all being told what television tells us how we must dress, and now, of course, the internet has brought all of that to us, and we're being watered down in our English characteristics from all these other nationalities that are pushing their ideas into this country. And I'm not here to say whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just saying it is the case that is the situation. Whereas go back 100 years, 110 years, 113, is it? Years, and you get back to a sort of a country that seems so different to us today that it was in its day, and yet it is the heart of where we are. That's me speaking. That's not me reading what he's written. Anyway, then the chance guests gather in the inn occasionally and provide rewarding conversation, to say nothing of the worthy landlord or chatty waiter thereof. Chatty waiter. Find a chatty waiter who has some experience of the world, is not a snotty teenager these days. But back then, a chatty waiter, who, if the right sort, will amuse one with the local gossip or scandal, free of charge. It is the minor incidents and sights of the road, the meeting with kindred spirits, if only for one brief hour, which are beyond the scope of a guidebook to give. And it is such incidents, sights, and fortuitous meetings that add to the interest of the wanderer and linger long and pleasurable in the memory. Truly the traveller never knows his luck in this respect, but from time to time, whilst taking my ease at remote country inns where everyone soon becomes on a friendly footing, I have come upon quite a number of charming people, some famous in the world of arts and letters, and it is always interesting to meet and converse with those who have made a name for themselves in the world. How pompous, really. Do we ever meet anybody now who's famous in the world of arts and letters? Is anybody famous in the world of letters? And what does that really mean? On my very first lengthened tour, taken many long years ago, when I tramped contentedly about the land with a knapsack only, I chanced upon no less personage than Herbert Spencer. And during the 3 dreary stormy days I was weather-bound at my primitive hostel, I enjoyed long talks with him about matters too deep for my clear comprehension. Yet how delightful it was simply to converse with so great a thinker. And this was only the beginning of many similar interesting experiences. And it's times like this in these sort of things that what I like to do, and you'll see this. Herbert Spencer. I don't know the name, perhaps you do. Let's find out by going online, and this is one of the things I used to love doing when we read these things. Herbert Spencer. And find out who he was. Now, here we go. Let's switch on the internet so we can see where we're going. Here he is, Herbert Spencer. And Wikipedia, I'm not always reliant on Wikipedia. What does it say? Herbert Spencer, from 1820 to 1903, was an English polymath, active as a philosopher, psychologist, biologist, sociologist, and anthropologist. Spencer originated the expression survival of the fittest, which he coined in Principles of Biology after reading Charles Darwin's book on the origin of species. Now, it's interesting because, and you may not like this bit, that the survival of the fittest theory is now being questioned, whether that is actually true, and whether Darwin was right 100 years later. Was he wrong in that animals don't just attack one another and it's the survival of the species, but actually they interact and help one another? And we know that from things that are parasites that help, say, horses or animals to eat the bugs that are affecting them. So I'm not sure that's 100% correct, but that was him, and here he is. Let's have a look at this whiskered old gentleman. Look at that. Can I get even closer on him? There, look at that old whisker. Hang on. There we are, that whiskered gentleman there. Can I just move that back? With his bow tie and his jacket being photographed in some early photographic studio. How marvellous, how marvellous, and how remote from today. Although you do see people with beards. It came back about, 20 years ago. People were wearing beards like nobody before. And but they don't look like that, do they? They don't make that manner of man anymore. But they do make nutters like me. Let's even up the scarf so it does look... Oh, I've shut the pages. How are we doing? Are you still with me? Or have you fallen off? Some people like this. If people are not interested, I don't have to continue, of course. Anyway, so that was him. Herbert Spencer. Never heard of him, but there we are. I wonder if you had. It was certainly somewhat unkind of fate to decree that on the following morning, after the long spell of fine weather and after all our hurried preparations for departure, it should rain, and that determinedly. However, my wife exclaimed, it would be really too provoking, with all our arrangements made, the bustle of them over, and the motor packed, not to start. So we put the car hood up, donned our waterproofs, and were off. Good for them. I wonder how many people would be put off, having packed up the car, especially one of these cars which only has a sort of pull-up hood, like a convertible. So we pulled up the hood and off we were off. Truly, it was not a propitious start. But we were in the holiday mood and not inclined to wait upon the whim of the weather. The rain, however, settled one point for us, namely the direction that we should take. The wind was blowing from the west, so towards the east we drove in order to secure full shelter of the hood. A truly haphazard way of touring, yet it had its advantages. Where we should find ourselves that night we had no idea, and happily no care, for as long as we came to a fairly comfortable inn, the more homely the better. What did it matter? Clearly money was no object. Though we set out for nowhere in particular, we knew that in due course we would arrive at many good places, and that knowledge sufficed. In spite of the rain, we were happy to be on the road, the free and pleasant road that leads one everywhere. Now, he hasn't told us the kind of car he's got yet, and I'm very eager to find that out and see if we can find a picture of it online. Or indeed, where he started off. Oh, here we are. As we motored away from our home at Eastbourne, So he's a Sussex. He's based in Sussex. There we go. And I did know that, I have to confess. We presently reached the wide, flat, exposed expanse of the Pevensey marshes, over which, windswept, unrestrained, and mostly cool it was. For, fortunately, the rain has fined down to a Scottish mist, and the open marshes did not even afford the poor protection of a hedge, the fences on either side of our road taking the form of reed-grown dykes. Such wide, level prospects need the bright light of unshadowed sunshine to bring forth their drowsy beauties. They are essentially summer lands, best to be appreciated on summer days. So let's have a look at a map, shall we, just to get, for those people who are not familiar with this area. So he's gone to the Pevensey Marshes. So let's have a look. So this is down at Worthing Pier, close to where I am. Let's move along the coast here. Let's just move that so we get a bit more of the map in view, so you can see it a bit better. Going right across past Newhaven here, Burling Gap. And so here is Eastbourne and the Pevensey Marshes. Now, I'm not too familiar with this. Where are the well, hang on, let's see if we can find... Oh, here's Pevensey. He said he went east. And here we are, Pevensey Levels, which I assume are the marshes. So he's left here, whether he went via West Ham or Pevensey Bay, who knows. But presumably... Now, difficult to know which road he's on. Let's cut to the... That's much better. We can see a little bit more here. These are the marshes as they are today. We can see that. But what I also want to have a look at is, what is that old maps? I forget the, side by side maps, which will give us, here we go. I enjoy this. Let's just close off some of this. Yeah, don't show that message again. Why won't you, accept, no, I don't want the cookies. Thank you very much. Get rid of that and get rid of that. So let us quickly find this and we'll get back to the story. The problem with this is you can't always... Right, that looks like Shoreham. Brighton. Can I just have the old map? Forget how you do this now. I haven't used this for so long. Just looking here. Now the map that I really want, if I remember, is the 1 inch. Is it no? The 6. Is it 6 inch? The 25 inch. I think this one. All these blooming overlays and things. There was a way of. I forget how you do it now. Oh yes, I remember. Sorry about this, ladies and gentlemen. There's a way of showing the... I have not done this. Hang on, where are we? I've got to try and find the town again. Let's turn that off. Full screen draw. Yeah. So there's Eastbourne. It's not very black and white, is it? Is that coming over quite well? And here's the Pevensey Marshes, look. And there is here, what is that? Oh, that's the railway. So the railway was there, and my God, he did not like the railway at all. But why is that not dark? What are we not doing here? We can put that map over it. Change transparency. It's just not very dark, which is irritating. I'm going to have to play with this on another occasion. But anyway, we're somewhere there. But where is he going? That's the question. I apologise for that. Unlike Romney Marshes, says Mark Burgess, and Bernie knows all about Pevensey Marshes. Right. Let's go back to a bit more of the story and see where they go and what we see, because we can look them up. So Years ago, Coventry Patmore sent me a little book that he had written in which he dilates enthusiastically about the quiet charms of the Sussex marshes. And from this I venture to quote the follows. "The beauty of these marsh views is beyond all description, and has never been expressed even in painting. What strikes me as being most characteristic and least noticed in these views is the effect of sunshine. You look over miles without a shadow. They abound with the peaceful and touching charms which render the plain more than a rival to the mountain. The infinite repose, which is the natural expression of any apparently boundless level. I have looked upon these marshes year after year, and always with new delight. To me, the Sussex marshes excel in truly artistic beauty, the scenery alike of Holland, Switzerland, and Italy." So writes an English poet of the little esteemed attractions of these marshes. But their tranquil beauties are not for everyone. They are far too subtle. On the other hand, Rousseau says, now is he French, Rousseau? Oh, yes, I think he's French. "Never can a flat country, though ever so beautiful, appear so in my eyes. I must have torrents, firs, trees, black woods, mountains to climb, and rugged roads with precipices on either side to alarm me." Fashion apart, for there is a fashion in most things, scenery is a matter of sentiment and association. The simple horizon lines of the plain are suggestive of repose. The complex, curved and uprising lines of a mountain and the crag are, on the other hand, exciting to the mind. Our admiration of a landscape depends upon our individual idiosyncrasies. The idiot is reading the book, by the way. Idiosyncrasies. Yes, you know what I'm saying. Idiosyncrasies. Idi Amin. No, not Idi Amin. Idiosyncrasies. Even upon the weather at time, and more upon the mood of the moment. Mountains depend greatly on the cloud and the storm of their impressiveness, but the placid plains demands the sunshine and fair weather. To me, the chief charm of the wide plain lies not so much in the plain itself as in the inspiriting brightness of an overarching sky above, stretching from one dim, dreamy distance to another. But to return to ourselves, that morning the marshes looked dreary enough to disgust even a Dutchman who, unlike Rousseau, apparently Rousseau was a Dutchman, so there we go, prefers his scenery flat and objects to mountains as obscuring the view. It was a damp, dismal, dripping world throughout which our deserted dike-bordered road stretched away ahead in a long curving parallels, lessening to the hazy horizon. Not a cheerful prospect, but one cannot command all good things on a tour. A prospect low in tone, like an old master's landscape that has become dimmed with age and grey. So he's going across a road parallel to a dike, across these marshes. The plaintive cries of whirling gulls, the soughing of the wild wind among the tall trees and sedges uprising from the dikes, mingled with the subdued murmuring of the summer waves on the shingly shore, for the sea was not far off, served to emphasize the general dreariness. The sounds were attuned to the scene. Never, ever errs in her harmonies. There is a halting couplet that runs thus: "Seagull, seagull, keep out on the sands." Sorry, I hate poems because I always cock them up first time reading them. "Seagull, seagull, keep out on the sea sand. It's never good weather when you're inland," which is quite a nice thing to say, I think. Anyway, many gulls circling about tokened ill, if the saying were to be relied on. Still, in spite of it all, we managed to enjoy the drive, the very loneliness of the sea-like level extent of the marshes, so expressive of solitude and space, were not without a certain glamour. Then there was the feeling of restfulness in quiet gloom, the absence of any glare. Moreover, the dimly outlined distance beheld between the misty rain. Beheld through the misty rain, and had an air of mystery, and mystery lends enchantment to the view. There is a certain poetic charm about the indefinite that no clearly revealed detail can ever give. I think the reason why an artist's rough sketch so often pleases more than the finished picture is that in the sketch so much perforce is left to the imagination, and the mind rejoices at times to be free from hard facts, so that it can do a little romancing on its own account. And I think that's very true. If you go to Chichester, for example, a Roman city, the gates, the old Roman gates have long gone, but they show the position of the gates. And I think there is something romantic about imagining in your mind the edifice that would have once stood there, erect and proud, and let people in and through those entrances. But if you go to a place and it's all there for you to see, there's no, nothing to be dreamt about, it's there solid, and this is it, this is how it was, where is the romance? You see it for what it is. And then, of course, you see places, I suppose if you go to Winchester, for example, in which there is a big gate and you can drive through it, if memory serves me correct. And then you've got the sort of juxtaposition of the modern and the old, and you're trying to sort of go, well, hang on, let me imagine this, what it was like before these damned modern motor vehicles have ruined it. And it is sometimes it's very difficult. So it is good. I think he's right in that. In that vague beyond whither we were tending in a scenic sense, all things seemed possible. Delusion afar. If I can turn the pages over, it would help, would it not? Delusion afar, delight anear. Without imagination, travel would be a dull progression. Well, take the British roads on the motorways. I think that is exactly it. You need tons of imagination to represent where you're going on a motorway. And much of the pleasure of a journey lies in the ideals we create for ourselves, and that we always hope to find somewhere in the magic far away, and the joy that comes from the rare attainment of our desires, rather than, say, a motorway service station. He didn't say that, by the way. It is the poetry that an artist puts into his picture, not the paint on the canvas, that pleases. So the charm of many a scene or place lies much in the vision of the beholder as in the object before him. Beauty comes from within us as well as from without. Much depends upon the little cultivated art of seeing. There is, too, an art of seeing only those things we desire to see, and being conveniently blind to those things we do not wish to see. And it's very hard these days to be conveniently blind to the things we don't wish to see, because the things we don't wish to see seem to be multitudinous among us. Still, through the marshes, though the marshes were dreary enough, the air of them was so pure, fresh and soothing that to inhale it was an exhilaration, and the mere act of breathing became a pleasure. The uncommon fragrance of the many marsh flowers and green-growing things was borne along the soft west wind, and the frequent salt whiffs that wafted by gave us a sense of the unseen sea and the mystery of it. Who can tell beforehand what the much-abused English climate may do in a way of a surprise? Monotonous for long it seldom is, and I for one rejoice in such assured changefulness. As we drove on, a sudden transformation in the weather took place, as welcome as unexpected. A warm yellow light first made its presence felt, quickly followed by a gleam of watery sunshine. Then the mists, as if by magic, melted away, A patch of pure sky became visible, gradually expanding till all above was bright and blue. Soon the sun shone forth in all the glory of a fair June day, flooding the far-reaching marshes with a luminous light. And what, so short time ago, was but a chill and dull and dreary world of sombre greens and greys, intersected by dismal dykes of leaden hue, was bursting with colour and brilliancy. It was well worth suffering the rain and the mist for that revelation of beauty. All around, the long, lank grasses, the feathery sedges, and the bending reeds were laden with drops of moisture that glowed and sparkled in the sunshine, as though all the land were strewn with opals and diamonds. Nature is prodigal in her effects when she chooses. Some days she sees colours the whole distance with miles of the purest ultramarine, vastly more beautiful and brilliant of tint than an artist's pigment, costing a guinea or an ounce or so. Just where the marshes ended and the wooded hills began to rise steeply above them, we noticed... Sorry, I read that slightly wrong. Just where the marshes ended and the wooded hills began to rise steeply above them, we noticed a primitive and lonely little inn that struck a pathetic note because of its loneliness. Whence came its custom was an enigma, for it had a miles from anywhere look, and the marshes were uninhabited. It was the sort of lone spot and lone inn to appeal to one of the old school of sentimental novelists, wherein to start the action of a thrilling romance. Even more modern Stevenson has confessed that he could never get over his hankering after a low, black-beamed, ceilinged room in a remote wayside tavern as a telling spot to inaugurate a story. Such is the sentimental place. Question is, are they going to go in it? Are they going to have a look? And are they going to stay the night? And what will it be like? Who knows? Who cares? We do, because we're very much into it all. Mark Burgess says the marshes are not dreary. The weather might be, but not to the landscape. Well, that's absolutely, and I think everybody has their own thoughts on their landscape and stuff, and I think that's absolutely how it should be. I'm just going to change that into, excuse me, the live chat. I don't know how many people are watching now because I've obscured the screen. We'll do a little bit more before we end this first. I don't know how long the first chapter goes on for, actually. Oh, a couple more pages. Let's go to the end of this chapter and we'll get it done. When we passed by, it only needed the inevitable solitary grey-cloaked horseman. Why were they always grey-cloaked, I wonder, suddenly appearing on the forsaken road to form a fitting prelude to an evening episode? But though the scene was set, we could not command the actor. I wonder how the gentlemen of the road would have dealt with motor cars had they have been in their day. Would have been fascinating, wouldn't it? We were told that in the 18th century, fashionable Londoners and invalids were induced by Dr. Russell's praises of the bracing Brighthelmstone air to risk the perilous journey through the wilds of Sussex to that place. The perilous journey to Brighton, ye modern motorists, think of that. A lengthened driving tour in those days would have provided plenty of excitement. A time there was when the true glamour of romance hung about the road. Yet who could care to have the hands of the clock turned back to the romance revived? They were picturesque days, doubtless, but they had their drawbacks. Leaving the lonely inn, now we don't know where this lonely inn is. I'd love to have known where it was and is it still there, but because he doesn't give us any sort of hint, really, there is a lonely inn somewhere, and the maps aren't very helpful at this point. Anyway, leaving the lonely inn, we struck upon a narrow road that climbed directly to the skyline above, and we soon found ourselves high up in the world with a high horizon. and the wide views revealed over land and sea were worthy of a climb. We were on the great hills of the south country that stand along the sea, a land blessed that day with the largest of light and sunshine. Sleepy and silly are terms I've often heard applied to Sussex, but I think sunny would be more than a truthful one, for when the sun shines anywhere in England, you may feel fairly sure of finding it shining there. Sleepy or stupid the Sussex folk are not, according to my experience, though quiet-mannered and slow of speech, perhaps more given to thinking than talking, for which I esteem them. A quiet man is not necessarily a stupid one. Then we motored on, careless of direction, taking first this road and that as fancy dictated. It saved us the trouble of consulting our map. And, as we had no special destination in view, where would have been the use of consulting it? Even the signposts were disregarded. We had no desire to be directed. So in time we came to a tree-shaded, winding road, bound on one side by a wild and extensive park, a beautiful park with undulating woods and great glades of grass and bracken. This we discovered to be Ashburnham. Ashburnham. So, there's somewhere near Ashburnham. Where the hell is Ashburnham? Anybody know? Let's put that in the in here and see if we can find it. Ashburnham. Ashburnham Place. Here we go. Let's get rid of this for a minute. Let's just pull out to see how far he's gone. So, here we go. There's Eastbourne, and he's travelled up here. He's gone quite a way then, up to Ashburnham. So he may well, and so this is Ashburnham Place. Now the chances are he's going to have a look at it. And I did see a picture here. Can I see that? That's Ashburnham Place. Look at that great edifice of brick. Now I wonder if he's going to go there. Be interesting to know. Let's get rid of. Oh, there we are. Got a bigger version of it. So it'd be interesting to see if he's gone there. And if we look on our geo-reference maps, which I don't know why it's so not very light. I wonder if I don't know how to get back to features. I don't know how this works now. I need to go back. Haven't used it for so long. Anyway, we don't want you. Thank you. We want that. Right. Let's go back to the book to see how we're doing. Are you still with me? Hope you are. I've lost the page. Did I not put the thing in? I thought I put it... Oh, yes. The Charm of the Road by James John Hissey. Ashburnham. Where the hell have I... The road appeared to be but little travelled, and it had a pleasant look. So, by the side of a stretch of waste ground graced by a clump of Scotch firs, we were tempted to halt a while. In all fair England, one could hardly hope to find a more rural or peaceful resting spot. Not a human habitation was in sight, and but for the roadway and the park palings, or palings, there was no sign of man's handiwork, nothing to reveal the century we were in. We might have been travellers in the Elizabethan days for all our eyes could tell, if only it were like that today. The amount of street furniture, the tarmac on the road, the signs that tell you don't stand on the grass, don't go here, all of that. The only sounds we heard were the joyous songs of birds mingled with the sur-sur-surring of the wind among the trees. And there is in souls a sympathy with sounds. The modern world, how far away it seemed, nor did we wish it was nearer. We were in a land of rest. It was difficult to realise that this retired and tranquil region was once the site of flourishing iron furnaces, its air polluted with the poisonous fumes and darkened by their sulphurous smoke. The present generation seem to have forgotten that Sussex, now so purely agricultural and pastoral and full of new builds, except for its fringe of seaside resorts, was for over 3 centuries the black country of England. But such it was, indeed. Iron ore was mined by the Romans there. In the reign of Henry VIII, ancient chroniclers relate that great cannons and shots were cast in Sussex to supply His Majesty's stores. In his day, quaint old Fuller remarked, now this is that mad Jack Fuller, it is almost incredible how many great guns are made of the iron of this country. Camden, at the end of the 16th century, also wrote, Sussex is full of iron mines, where, for the making and founding thereof, there be furnaces on every side, to which purpose divers brooks are brought to run in one channel, that they might be of power sufficient to drive hammer mills, which, beating upon the iron, renowned all over the place adjoining. It is recorded that the Sussex forges supplied 3,000 horseshoes for the King's army, only to be left behind at Bannockburn. And we further learn that the parsons of the period were accustomed to take their tithes of iron. That's 10%, a tithe being 10%. 10% of your earnings in horseshoes. A lot of good luck, I would imagine. Such is the picture presented to us of Sussex in the old times, one in startling contrast with its uncommercial present. Ashburnham was the last iron furnace in the county to be closed down, and this happened as late as 1828. The reason for this being the drunken habits of the foundry men, who had no difficulty in providing themselves with plenty of supply of Hollands from the smugglers. In return for the assistance they cheerfully gave those early day-free traders. Otherwise, possibly, the Ashburnham furnaces might have existed for some considerable time longer, for the Ashburnham iron was in much demand, being the toughest in England, fully equal to the Swedish metal, considered the best in the world. Owing to the quantity of iron in the soil, many of the Sussex streams ran red after the rain, a fact that doubtless gave rise to the ancient tradition that at times the ground weeps blood. And it makes me think of Horsham, where I was brought up, because there was the Red River, and I wonder if that was because a lot of iron was exposed there. Because there were iron up at Rusper, and I wonder if Rusper comes from rustper. It's interesting, isn't it? According to that medieval chronicler, William of Newbury, in the plain near Hastings, where the Norman William, after his victory, found Harold slain, thereabout is a place which after rain always looks red, attributing to the bloody sweat of the earth, as crying to heaven for revenge of so great a slaughter. Drayton, in his ponderous Polyalbion, thus refers to the place giving the place a name. And Aston, once disdained with native English blood, whose soil, when yet but wet with any little rain, doth blush, as put in mind of those there sadly slain. I cannot discover Aston on my ordnance map, but Ashburnham Furnace and Ashburnham Forge are plainly marked thereon, in spite of the many years that have passed since they existed. Now, of course, we should have a look at an Ordnance Survey map to see if they are still there, which would be interesting. I'll get one up on the next time. I'll be more prepared, ladies and gentlemen. And it's getting blooming cold now in this room with no heating. The country abounds in iron ore. In 1866, M.A. Lower, the learned antiquity and authority on things Sussex, wrote, "Within the last few years there has been a great deal of inquiry as to the practicality and practicability of our working are still... Oh, I'll start that again because I've cocked that right up. Within the last few years, there's been a great deal of inquiry. That's inquiry is American, isn't it? I'm not American, I'm English. Thank you very much. There's been a great deal of inquiry as to the practicability of working our still far from exhausted iron strata. I have been in correspondence on the subject with iron masters in various parts of Great Britain. The present difficulty appears to be the question, shall coal be brought to Sussex iron, or shall Sussex iron be carried to distant coal? I devoutly trust that if... Is this still the same bloke talking? I devoutly trust that if either takes place, it will be the latter, and that the blue skies of sunny Sussex will never be polluted and darkened with the smoke of furnaces, nor its gracious country disfigured by them. Sussex today, apart from a few districts whereon the modern builder has unhappily set his stamp, a delightful land of bright skies, of pure bracing breezes and rural pleasantness, a land to love and a land of health. Let us keep at least this one favoured corner of England sweet and clean and beautiful. The question is Sussex still sweet, clean and beautiful? Sussex people, both of high and low degree, gracious, are given to long abiding in one place. I do not fancy that any of the pilgrim fathers set out from that pleasant land. Frequently I've noticed that in its towns and villages the names on the ancient tombstones of the churchyard, some of them uncommon, still prevail amongst the inhabitants of today. The Ashburnhams are a notable and noble example of this, who Fuller remarks are a family of stupendous antiquity. According to the old chronicles, Bertram du Eastburnham was constable at Dover at the time of the Norman invasion, and was beheaded by the Conqueror for holding out against him after the Battle of Hastings. John Ashburnham, some centuries later, was groom of the bedchamber to Charles I, and attended that unfortunate king onto the scaffold. Up here, Your Majesty. Come on up here. Come on up here. That's it. Now, if you just put your head in the block there, you won't feel anything. You all right, Mr. Axe Murderer? Lovely, yeah. In your own time, then. Shall I count you in? After the execution, he was given a monarch's watch, a blood-stained shirt, and the sheet that was thrown over his body. These relics were eventually bequeathed to the parish of Ashburnham forever, and were placed in the village church and remained there for years. But for better safety, someone having stolen the outer case of the watch, they were finally removed to Ashburnham Place, and are no longer to be seen by the curious. And the Ashburnham Place, as I showed you just now, is here. When exhibited in the church, the shirt was frequently touched by sufferers of the king's evil on the supposition that they would be cured by so doing. The last touching took place as late as 1860. I had no idea that this special and ancient superstition had lasted so long in the countryside. But in the countryside, old crusted superstitions die uncommonly hard. The rural folk are very reticent to strangers about their beliefs. The more ignorant, the more reticent. So that it is impossible, almost impossible, for the casual traveller to glean how much old-time superstition still prevails in remote places. I fancy a good deal more than people imagine. Only a few years ago, a rector of a purely agricultural parish confided to me that after some years, he discovered of several of his poor practitioners hung witch stones in their cottages as a protection against witches. A witch stone, which I had never heard of before, I learnt was simply a small stone of any kind with a round hole in it. The hole must be round and natural. The stone has to be come upon unexpectedly, not sought, for otherwise there is no virtue in it. For those who delight in the search of the old world superstitions, quaint legends, curious folklore, and wise sayings, the West Country, war, hello there, still remains a profitable and happy hunting ground. By the West Country, I mean generally the land that lies beyond the Cotswolds. The more to the west, the richer the gleanings. And there endeth chapter 1 of The Charm of the Road by James John Hissey. And there I will leave it, my friends. He didn't go to Ashburnham Place in the end. Thank you for watching. Now, I may not go live next time. This may just, I've got to work out how to go unlisted on this, so I can just do it in different times of the day and then just plonk them on there, and you'll get a notification so you don't have to ace it through the live stuff. Although you may wish to, who knows. But there we are. What about that? Just have a quick look at these messages. Rick Howden says, I took a stroll from Totnes to Asprington, just before the new year. Most beneficial. Sounds lovely. Holly & Co. says, Heidi-ho, everyone, and Happy New Year, Vobsters. Georgia's Vintage World says, he must have made many notes on his journey to write so prettily and vividly. Yes, I do wonder, how much of this was then he did the trip, made some notes, then went back to guidebooks and found out the information. It seems that he has made a living out of his travelogues, because I think it is about 8 books of these. And it's interesting, he revealed that he started out walking. It would be interesting to get one of his walking stories. Anyway, there we go. Thank you so much, everybody. I will be back at some point, don't know when, to do the next exciting episode of James John Hissey and The Charm of the Road. So until next time, I bid you a farewell. It's been great fun. Bye-bye for now.